episode of Teves Development. Today we're going to be going over a practice problem. This is a good one to start with. We're going to be reversing a string. Reverse string. So we'll start this by making a method called reverse. And we'll take in a string. And we will return a string. We'll also start to test it by making a public static void main method. We'll take in some arguments and we will do something like string test string equals that. And then we will do something along the lines of if reverse, and we'll pass in the test string content equals a new string builder, and we'll pass in our test string, and we will reverse this. So if that is correct, we will do a system.out.print success. Otherwise, we will print out failure. Cool, so let's explain this real quick since this isn't really part of the problem. We're going to be using our method that we're going to create up here, which does nothing yet. We're going to pass in this string that we're going to use to test. And this, if we did it correctly, should equal the string builder passing in again our same test string and reversing this. So we know that these internal Java methods work. So we can go ahead and check what this is doing. If we go in here, this is calling another method, which we can check by looking at the super, which then we can see all this code. So we're not going to look at that to start because we don't want the answer. So let's give it a try right off the bat. So let's do something like return input, just to show you how this would work. So if we passed in something like test string, this should fail. We should get a failure because we're not doing anything yet. So let's give that a try. Failure, yeah. So we can see that we're obviously not reversing the string correctly to start. So let's jump into this. So to start, we need something to house the string that we're going to return. So to do this, I'm going to be using a string builder as well. So let's create a new string builder and we'll name this SB equals new string builder. And then this, we'll see what this takes. It looks like it can take the size of the string that we want. So we can get this by doing input.length. Why input.length? So let's think about that for a second. We know that we want this string to be a reverse. This string builder wants to be a reverse of this string. So we know that they want to be the same size. So we can use the current size of the string that we're passing into this method as the size of the string that we're going to get out. Great. So now let's think about how we can actually reverse this. There's a few different ways to do this. One of the ways that I think is the most simplistic is to loop through it. So we can do this by using either a for loop, a while loop, a few different things. I'm going to be using a for loop today. So how do we want to loop through this? We could loop from the start to the end, which isn't going to do too much for us. We can think about this from a different approach. What if we loop through from the end to the beginning? This way we can get every character in that string backwards. So we can do this by doing something like int I equals input dot length. So we're going to set I to the end of the string, but let's remember that because we are 0 indexed in Java, we actually need to subtract 1 off this guy. Then we want to go all the way to the beginning of the string. So we can do I is greater than or equal to 0. And then we want to move backwards, so we'll do I minus minus. So again, we're going to start from the end of the string, -1, so we don't get an index out of bounds exception. Then we're going to go until we are at 0, and we're going to subtract 1 from the length of the string every single time we loop through. So let's think about this for a second. Like I said, we need to add this -1. Let's think about why. So let's say we have a string hello. This string is going to be size 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is going to be a size 5 string. So if we get input.length equals 5, if we don't have this -1, we're going to start by trying to index at the 5th index. But remember, we start, like I said earlier, at 0 based indexing, so we would go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We would actually be out of bounds on this string and we'd get an exception. So if we add this -1 here, which would make it 4, we would index at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which would be the O. So that's why we need that -1 there. So now that we have a feeling that we're going to be looping backwards through that string correctly, what do we want to do next? Well, we want to get every single char at that index. So how would we do that? We're using the string builder, so we could do something along the lines of sb.append, which would add any of these things to our string builder. We're going to be using a char, so let's think about how we can get each individual char from the string we're at. We can do this by getting input.char at, and then this will take in an index, which we already know we're indexing with I, so we can pass in I to this guy. So what this is going to do is, say we have example hello again. We're going to start at this O, and then we are going to add that O to our new SB, which is our string builder. So let's say this is our SB down here. Right now it's going to be an empty string builder. We're going to add O to it, and then we're going to start over. We're then going to move to the L, which then we would append that to this, and then we'd start over. Then we would be at index 2, which we would then add L. Then we would be at index 1, which would be E, and then finally we would be at index 0, which would be H. So then we should have this string builder containing a reverse of the string that we passed in. So that all looks good. Now we know we need to return a string, so we can get this all out and finished by doing return sb.toString. And this will return a string of the string builder that we built. Now, again, like we said, we already know that this works for sure. So if we use our method passing in the same test string into both, at this point we should see success. So let's give it a try. Success. Great. So it looks like we are correctly reversing a string. We can do this a few more tries. We could do something just like test. That works. We could do like it. That looks like it works. Maybe just a space in the string. So it looks like everything is working. let's say we indexed to 1 instead of 0. This would not work. We're going to be missing the first letter, which then we would get a failure. So I hope it helps. Of course, there's many different ways on reversing a string, but this is a pretty simple way of doing it, pretty efficient as well. Any questions, feel free to comment down below. Give this video a like if you thought this was helpful, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.